Yay!
Woo! Wow.
Hello.
Exciting.
Fancy.
It is fancy.
It looks exactly the same. What are you talking about?
It says live on.
You're like, ooh, wow, this is so cool.
Those of us who aren't in the media are very excited by the little live. It's a small thing.
Exactly.
Chase has got us all beat. His is HD.
All right. Look at you.
And I totally forgot about it again, Eric. And I even was going to say, like, I don't know if I can stay on the whole time because I have a cold. So if I can't, then I'll watch it.
There it is. Can you guys still hear me?
There you are.
Yes.
Yay! Guys, this is a real show now. Mike, what's your SAG rate? Actually, Chase and Mike.
Well, for I'm assuming this is modified low budget.
Extremely low. The lowest.
So can anybody around the world just jump in and sing us? Or are we,
Honestly, I think they can. It is currently public, and I will make it private afterwards, I think. Maybe. Or I would profit off of all of your thoughts. It's really simple once you know how to set this up, but it took me so much searching. You basically just are doing like a YouTube live, and then your selection is you started as a Hangouts on air, which is weird, but good.
Nice.
Well, and also, I would just like to shout out, this is, I think, the fastest we've ever gone between choosing a book and meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Pretty
It
cool.
was.
I think we have to give most of that credit to the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a super fast read.
Yeah.
So great.
I'm also surprised because Eric and I think Mike, and I was like, wow, you're already done? Okay. I thought I was the only one who was waiting for it.
Yeah, you guys are definitely faster readers than I am. I'm a very slow reader, but I just devoted like a whole weekend to this book. Like it just, you couldn't stop.
No.
Well, I mean, for me, the LA Public Library helped because it was a hot topic, a hot title, hot off the press.
Yeah.
So I could only have it for 7 days.
Oh, wow.
So I probably would have sort of milked it a little bit more because I enjoyed it so much. But because I had to get it back to them, I budgeted like exactly enough time to read X amount of pages every day. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I was just getting my brakes rebuilt while I was reading it. So, good times.
I was
Nice.
so proud of you when you said that you went to the library because I used this book club as an excuse to go to Barnes & Noble. I went straight out to Barnes & Noble. I got the book and then got books on Melanie and Dan and I got
Well, I mean, Lauren chides me for not just going and getting the book, but we do book sales. So, you know, in a year, all of these copies are going to be available at like the Sherman Oaks Library for $1.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
like, I love the guy, but I can read it now and then pay $1 in a year and add it to my collection. So,
Totally fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
I cash in like Amazon gift cards and whatnot on mine. I'm still reading on the iPad.
cool.
Worth every penny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
I I really enjoyed it. I didn't know it was part of, like, my mom put me in. She was like, oh, no, it's part of the trilogy. I didn't. I don't know if anybody else knew that.
Nope.
I liked that I didn't know, like, that it was. I didn't feel like I was missing anything. Apparently, if anybody has read the Mr. Mercedes and that whole thing, Holly is part of, and Bill Hodges is part of that. But, like, I didn't feel like I needed to know that, or that I did know. I didn't know that, and I didn't feel like I was missing anything or anything. So I appreciated that. Like, I felt like
Well,
a standalone book easily.
I had said this to Eric. I didn't know it had a connection to Mr. Mercedes. And when we got to that section, I tried to glance over the details in that section because I didn't want anything to like, I didn't know what it was related to, what book, where it was coming from, but I did sort of try to not pay attention to the details because I didn't want Mr. Mercedes ruined, or the Mr. Mercedes trilogy ruined for me. So on that note, if there are any spoilers coming, just try to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I haven't read it there.
We will be more respectful than Mr. King himself.
I had read Mr. Mercedes so long ago that I had forgotten the names. And then suddenly there were details that popped up, and I was like, oh, okay. But I'd only read the first one. I haven't read the rest of the trilogy. So, a few details I know now, but oh well.
Yeah. I don't know.
I sort of had intended and was looking forward to this as, like, commiseration, to get it off my chest how frustrated I was, because it kind of colored the whole second half of the book for me. I was kind of blindsided that these were established characters now, and this was like a whole world that I knew nothing about. And then also the spoilers. But, like, did it make you not want to read? For those of you that haven't, did it dissuade you? Because I just kind of want to read that trilogy more now.
Yeah, I want to read it more now, 100%. I tried to, like, store those parts of the things in my brain that I'll, like, kind of forget or just act like I don't know when I read it again.
Yep.
Which I've had to do before. But, yeah, I mean, Holly was such a big character in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I liked her a lot.
Yeah, see, I guess going, as I was reading it, I felt like as soon as parts of her past started coming up, I was asking myself, is this an already established character, or is he going to write more with her? Like, is he teasing us for stuff to come in the future? So I really like that connection, even not knowing not fully understanding what the connection was.
I totally want to read the stories more, especially if they're in this kind of, crime type of genre, which I knew that they were. But I didn't pick up on the fact, because I knew nothing about Mr. Mercedes except that it was a crime thing, that it was related to. I didn't know it then. Like, after I already finished. So it didn't bother me, I guess is what I'm saying, because I didn't know. Maybe if I knew in advance, then it would have bothered me.
Cool.
Somebody running up and down stairs.
Yeah, interesting.
But I don't know if we can just jump into the overall feelings of the book. I really liked the book overall. Probably one of my favorite recent books. It's obviously his most recent book, but that I've read of his in a while. It went so fast, and I was, like, very, like, into it. And I think it goes into one of my other questions, but just, like, I like the whole.
I lost you.
Yeah.
So I just love the book, and I think the lore me was just also caught up in the whole like forensics part of it. I read a lot of those books too. I just did a lot.
Yeah, I usually try to fit in at least one book between the Stephen Kings. And sometimes it'll be a Game of Thrones, which is like, that's really like trying to shoehorn a size 11 triple E into like a pair of kids' ballerina slippers. But I will often, pick up a Robert B. Parker or a Michael Crichton, and I couldn't help but compare what I was reading to those books, and they're similar, but I don't know. I just feel like King does it so much better. He just does everything better. It's like, look, I love Robert B. Parker's Jesse Stone, and I read them, and I read all the Michael Crichton, and I love what he does. But it's just the way King tells, the way he brings out the details, and the way he builds a character, and I don't know. He's in a league of his own. I mean, I wouldn't be part of this book club if I didn't think so, but he's incredible.
Yeah.
I think that his attention to detail and everything really helped in this one, kind of having it start with the crime and everything.
Yeah.
Because this one felt like it kind of took off running a lot more than his other books, which a lot of the time I have to like kind of slog through the beginning until I get hooked. But yeah, The Outsider, I was definitely like, from the beginning, I was like, okay, what's going to happen next?
I thought the interweaving was masterful of the sort of the arrest with the details coming out and each of the little interviews, and just I completely agree with you, Chase. That was incredibly engaging from the jump in a way that some of the other ones aren't quite. And it sucked me right in, and I want to see where it was going. And there were definitely twists I didn't anticipate. The shooting at the arraignment was just not. I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming at all. I was expecting a whole long outdrawn court battle or something, and boom, he was dead. And I was like, okay, where do we go from here? And it was great. It was great. It's nice to get surprised. It doesn't happen as often as I'd like.
It was very shocking and very welcome.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Chase. I feel like with almost every Stephen King book I pick up, the first 15 pages are like, yes, like I can't. And then all of a sudden it just slows down. This one, it was like the first 150 pages, and it was like just it was a roller coaster, and I was on board and just ready from the word go. It was amazing. I agree 100%, John.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I almost feel like, and I am not a true crime, despite being a lawyer, I'm not a true crime police procedural person, like at all. And I even didn't mind this, although I did feel like the first half kind of bogged down in like evidence reports and business like that a little bit more for my taste, but like it flew and it had a good pace, and I didn't start losing it or get frustrated. I think just the whole structure was so King, but so different that it was a really nice read. I enjoyed this immensely.
Good.
Okay, so we love the book.
Bye. Well, is this too early to ask about the supernatural aspect? Did that change your perception of it? I mean, I personally thought it was a really cool way to do the supernatural. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, there's a spirit. It's like, okay, there's this thing that has been around and it exists, and it could exist in our world, and we would never know because it's taking other people's bodies. So real enough that it didn't go, oh, okay, this is just your get out of jail free card because you wrote a really cool mystery and didn't know how to solve it.
I mean, go ahead, Chase.
I was going to say what I really liked is he drew the parallels to Edgar Allan Poe throughout. And so for a while, I was really just back and forth between like, is it something supernatural, or is it going to be like a true crime kind of thing? Is he trying something different? And the way he kind of like slowly put the supernatural aspects in until we're fully in that supernatural world at the very end with these non-believers I really like that. But yeah, because they mention it, they talk about Edgar Allan Poe, who was just kind of like, people think of him as supernatural when really mostly he deals with abnormal psychology.
Yeah. The only thing I really liked the shapeshifter thing, and I kind of caught that was going to not super early on, but like relatively early on, a shapeshifter. Only because I've read a couple of books, and I recommended one of them on our Facebook post that have that, and I think it's a really cool supernatural thing because it's scary in that you don't really know, you know, and you think you know, but it's not what you think it is, and that's inherently scary. But what I didn't so much like, and I don't know how much we want to get into this because I don't know if I just don't know if it's a spoiler for Mr. Mercedes and the whole thing with Holly, is it almost felt a little bit like tied up in a neat bow, the way that it's like she just like knew what it was, just like
Wasn't surprised.
like she just like, like, oh, well, I've seen this movie, and so I think that's what it is. And I was just kind of like, what? It just seemed a little, like I said, tied up a little bit too neatly in a bow for me, I guess. That it hit all, and then like the lieutenant was like, oh yeah, well, I've heard of that too, and then it gets more fleshed out. But I think right at the beginning, I was just a little bit much like, oh, well, we have the answer. And that seemed a little like, what she was like, let me just put this videotape in, and I think we could just watch 10 minutes of it, and
it'll explain it.
Like, what?
It was a little easy in that respect, but I didn't mind it because she didn't convert everybody right. It wasn't that all of a sudden the entire group around the table was like, oh yeah, that's clearly it. Like, this is what we're dealing with. They felt it, despite the fact that it was, a supernatural shapeshifter, it still felt very grounded. That these were, I can easily see these people, sitting around being confronted with something that was very inexplicable, and here was a possible explanation, but it just blew their mind and was unlike anything they'd ever dealt with before, and defied all their laws and all of their, prior experiences. And it took them a long time to come around. And in that way, I was okay with the fact that she sort of was able to zero in very easily. That I probably would have felt more like you felt if the whole group went along with it that quickly.
So on that note, she was Van Helsing, right? In the Dracula parallel to the book.
Yes.
And
as in, like, knew how to kill the monster. Yes.
Right. She's the expert. She's almost like the mentor in the Joseph Campbell, world.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I liked is like, because they wouldn't have known what to do. They would have been stuck without her, and maybe it was a little easy, but I don't know. Maybe just tying the parallels to Dracula with calling Hoskins, Renfield, and everything. It made sense to me.
And maybe if you went through the first two books, she would have had that more of a background where, like, she knows a lot more. But to me, it was like, just like she was like, I just have this videotape that I just happen to have, and it seemed like just such like a random thing. But I think because it's a known character, I'm speculating. I think because it's a known character, and if you had the background of the other two books, I think it would be more like, well, of course, and yeah, that mentor role. but I don't really know. But it caught me at first as kind of like, really?
It was convenient.
But if she has that mentor, like you see that a lot in a lot of these shows where where they have these fountains of knowledge and they have that and you rely upon it, and that makes sense. It just didn't seem like it was set up in our book that she was that yet. Have that. So
right, like had she had a blog where she had been, tracking the chupacabra, in this case the kukui, and they sought her out because because somebody picked up on the connections, then yes, that would have been maybe a less neat way of drawing the two worlds together, the Mr. Mercedes world to this one. But yeah, I think it comes down to him wanting to just start building a universe somehow, where these things are happening in the same, when it's like when someone in Castle Rock mentions Cujo or whatever it is, but like it did seem like a very heavy-handed way of connecting this work with other works.
Yeah.
And we're so used to Deus Ex Machina from him anyways that like I wasn't really shocked. It just felt like maybe we were trying to do it faster this time.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, actually, I'm curious to read the Mr. Mercedes trilogy. Is it the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, or is there another name for the trilogy? It's the okay.
Bill Hodges.
Bill Hodges Trilogy.
It's the Bill Hodges Trilogy. Okay, I'm curious to read that now, just to see if there, to see what else is there. Like what is it that's like it seems like he's clearly moving away from Maine. You know what I mean? Like he's trying very hard to establish a nexus somewhere else in the world.
I think he's done it. It felt very good in this book. I felt like he had a grasp of all the characters and the world around him. Nice.
Yeah.
It was nice not to be in Maine.
Yeah.
But it still had that like small, like he still created that he's had in Maine, I guess, that felt really familiar to me. Derry and Castle Rock and Salem's Lot and like all of those things where the moral judgments and kind of small town attitude can turn against you so easily. And like I just feel like he, in a lot of his books, is sort of like passing judgment on small towns, like and I thought it was so really clear in this book, and it is in most of his books where he's doing this, but it's just like in a sad way where she's, and it's completely accurate, where she's saying even if he hadn't gotten shot and he was acquitted, that they would never be able to stay there without any sort of without people thinking that he just got off or things like that, but he had actually killed that boy. And how everybody turned against her and all of these things. And it's just like, I think that's a really common theme for him.
Yeah, and I think there was definitely small town commentary happening there. And the thing I kept thinking is, Lord, years and years and years ago, my cousin was in junior college in rural Georgia, and one of her friends was a black boy, and my grandmother said, if you take up with him, you'll be finished in this town. Yeah, everyone take a break to eye roll, and we'll move on. But like that's the kind of thing that was like playing of that whole like small town, everyone like everyone's puts in little boxes, it's quick to judge, that was sort of the kind of thing that popped up. And I think he does that very well because Lord knows it's a thing.
This one I could almost see being applicable to not even just a small town. I mean, you can whip up even a large town into a media frenzy with certain sensationalized crimes and sensationalized news, and I can even see it happening here in New York. I ultimately it does sort of flow with some of his other small town visits and things, but for this particular instance, I could see it happening anywhere. It didn't have to be a small town even.
I have to agree with John. I didn't. I mean, I see exactly what everybody's saying. How he was vilified, and but I didn't necessarily even see Flint City. Is that the name of it?
Yeah.
I didn't even necessarily see Flint as being that small, and I really thought that this could have been any town, anywhere, and if the high school basketball coach or baseball coach was suddenly accused of a heinous crime
involving the little boys he coached.
Exactly. Yes, it's going to drive a wedge in any town.
Yeah.
So I didn't necessarily see the small town the small town dynamic, but I did see everything that you guys are talking about.
Well, I think, and I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up in a smallish town, but I think there's a difference between the high school basketball coach, who, maybe some people can name, and then there's a small town where like high school, like where I guess in this case it was baseball, where baseball is like, they had they were describing the baseball game where they had people there at that baseball game who didn't even have kids playing because it was like a community like event. And that they all knew who Terry Matlin was because of XYZ, blah 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 blah, yada yada yada. And like, Alexandria, Virginia, like, or just outside of DC is not like that. Like, I couldn't tell you who the high school basketball coach our local high school is, like, nor would I care. But in these where I grew up, high school football was a huge deal. And my dad still goes to the high school football games and hasn't had kids or grandkids, has nobody eligible to play, doesn't even know any of those kids. He just goes because he's like, Sherwood Pride. And I'm like, oh my God. So like, it's that type of thing where that coach that everybody, knows is, I think that is sort of different, where I think seeing, again, the attention to details where he's talking about, the face paint and especially the people, how many people are at the games and all of those things.
I wonder if there was even some kind of commentary on like the whole Jerry Sandusky Penn State thing too. Like, I wonder what he was drawing from to build this sort of world, because that was a much grander scale, but it was the same kind of horrific scenario. So I wonder if that played into it. I felt like there was a lot of kind of social commentary that you could read a lot into this story depending on what like viewpoint you took.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, because I think he was saying so much about the world we live in now and how easy this would be for any of us to judge somebody else without knowing the full story. The arrest at the game kept coming back as like a mistake that Ralph made. I think that was King saying, well, look, you jumped to conclusions. This is the natural progression. And eventually somebody died for it, for that one decision, probably.
But then, like, the detective, I think his name was Paul, the retired cop who was working with them, was saying, look, I just want you to know.
Alec Pelly.
Oh, yeah.
I just want you to know that, like, with the evidence that you guys had, and if I had had a kid on that team, I think I would have done exactly the same thing. I just might not make you feel any better because of how everything turned out, but just so you know. And everybody was on board with it. And then everybody, and everyone afterwards was like, well, if he's going to get arrested like that, then of course he's guilty.
Right.
So,
Yes, that's the for me that was the I'm going to use the term police, even though it includes the district attorney. For me, that was the police trying to get a head start, if not a win, in the court of public opinion.
Mhm.
You know, in coming out and doing it the way that they did, they were trying to, you know, it was sending a message to the 2,500 people, whoever was there, which would then, you know, that message would get spread to everybody else in town, that, you know, Terry Maitland, Terry
Maitland.
did something bad. He did something bad, and the cops know it. You know, that to me, that was the I don't know if commentary, but that was a nod toward the Facebook phenomena, you know, where all of a sudden everybody has to get rid of plastic straws for 2 days, and then it's like, but my grandmother has Parkinson's and needs a plastic straw, and they go, okay, no, we can have plastic straws now. Like to me, that's what that kind of harkened to.
mhm.
Yeah.
I liked how he wrote the DA, that just this sort of full of himself, cocky, swaggering guy who, you know, even at the end, he didn't seem to be as, yeah, I mean, he finally gave that press conference to sort of exonerate him and own up to it, but there was still something about him. He was what reminded me most of sort of this small town swaggering DA kind of guy. And that, you know, so quick to sort of jump in the news and say, oh, this guy did it, and we've got our guy, and, you know, the election coming up part of it played into that, and just that whole sort of political scene and what happens to them, the justice system because of it, you know, really, really spoke to me.
Yeah, I saw a lot of some of those prosecutors I ran across when I was going through law school in Louisiana. Like, oh yeah, I know that guy. Absolutely.
Well, even in one of the last scenes, he talks about how he's going to be all right because the town's going to need a good defense attorney now that Howie Gold's dead.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, geez, Bill.
That was a little
Knock it off.
That was special.
Can I ask a specific question for the attorneys present? I mean,
Sure, this is not legal advice, but yes.
exactly, not legal advice, especially if you're watching on YouTube. Did it feel very authentic the way that the DA was involved, or is that like maybe a symptom of the small town thing?
We could ask Dan to come up because he was a prosecutor, but from what he told me, the prosecutors work really closely with the police cases. So
Yeah.
it didn't seem out of
my friends who are I have a friend in she's in Texas, and she does, you know, vice unit crimes like this, and she and her detectives are like that, working these cases.
Yeah, I have to imagine for, you know, the more misdemeanor or low level stuff that it's not as close a relationship because there's probably just a lot of churn in the prosecutorial offices and things like that. But for these major crimes, they're going to work very closely together.
Cool. I mean, I'm not surprised that King got it right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The things that I was interested in was just kind of like, I guess, and they talked about in the book, they said that picking Terry was clearly a mistake because, you know, when you looked at Keith, like that from the senior home, you know, he lived with his mom, he didn't have family. and then like again, Claude, you know, kind of had like a sketchy background, had all these tattoos, seemed like,
Yeah.
you know, and then you pick like Terry. Like I like what. Obviously, it turned out to be a mistake to pick him because, you know, they thought maybe he picked him because he was out of town and would be, you know, leaving the area. But like, and he didn't have family with him while he was visiting, so maybe he didn't know he had family. But like, what exactly are those the things we never really found out? But like, are those the things that they're looking for? Like people without families and people who seem kind of sketch that would be more believable to like do these heinous crimes.
And you know, that's something I think it would have been interesting to see, because there was kind of hints there at the end, right before the big denouement where they wipe out the outsider or whatever, where he's like in a where it, I guess, is like in a weakened state. And I'm wondering, like, a few more for once, like King could have given us a few more pages on like the, you know, what happens to the thing when it's in weakened state. Like, did it screw up because it was so desperate to get more, you know, like energy or whatever? That's a really good call, because that would have been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's funny though? I mean, yes, this turned out to be a mistake because he had such sort of an ironclad alibi, and you know, people in the community sort of knew him. But at the same time, was it? I mean, think about it. If it happened a couple of days prior when he wasn't at the conference, he was just home. Like, if it wasn't such a big alibi, would it have been such a mistake? Because I feel like a lot of times you hear about, like, oh, it's the one you least suspect. It's the one the neighbors all say was perfectly normal. It's the, you know, a lot of times you hear about it, and then maybe just because that's what makes the news, but a lot of times you hear about the coaches or the teachers or, you know, the nice guy in the neighborhood who suddenly is turned out to be a monster. So I don't know that it turned out to have been a mistake due to the alibi that was so conveniently there. But at the same time, I don't know that overall it was a mistake as much as just sort of bad luck.
Well, I honestly don't think, to me, I don't think he cared where his other was going to be, because he was never going to get caught. I think, yes, it's a bonus for him if something bad happens to the people involved, aside from whoever he assaults. But I think that it wasn't necessarily that the alibi was so good. I think it came down to the people who were investigating it. I think it comes down to Ralph and Holly specifically, because even with all the contradicting evidence, I don't know that there are a lot of other people in the world that would have tracked it down as doggedly as they did.
Yeah. Some special characters.
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking like that I saw some parallels between between Claude and Heath that didn't seem to be there with Terry. So I was just kind of wondering if he had sort of a, you know, a type. And if he thought that Terry was that type of loner, didn't have a family, because even if he wasn't at the conference, he would have been home with his wife and his 2 kids, theoretically. And while that wouldn't have been as good of an alibi as his mom, you know, you still have 2 kids, the wife, the 2 kids, neighbors, you know, his job. You know, he wasn't like, the reason that Heath's alibi wasn't so good is that, and it was pretty good. There was only like 45 minutes that wasn't accounted for. That was just good enough for him to get to go and kill the girl. Was because he like spent most of the time at his mother's house, like not doing very, very much. I think Terry's like normal life would give him plenty of alibi, because he was like actively involved in the community and et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. I'm just thinking about it that maybe this guy thought because he went to go visit his dad by himself from out of town with nobody around that he was just like alone.
The connection that I saw between the three others was that they were all taking care of an elderly, sick parent.
Oh yeah.
And the outsider does say he doesn't care about the alibi because he's taken other people who had just as strong, if stronger, than Terry's alibi.
Mhm.
But people don't believe in the supernatural. But yeah, but that's what I saw is, I mean, Heath going home to take care of his mom. Terry was with his dad. And then Bolton was also with his sick mom. I don't know what it means, but I just saw the connection.
That's interesting.
Good catch.
Yeah.
I didn't catch it.
Yeah, I didn't catch that either. I just saw it as sort of, I'm going to use the term crime of opportunity to jump bodies. You know, I really didn't think that he was necessarily, I didn't think he necessarily knew anything about Terry or Heath or Claude before nicking them. You know, it would have been interesting. Yes, it would have been. You know, I feel like we got so much motivation on the part of the alien spider in it. You know, there were like pages of like what the alien spider thought. And this is a time, yes, Tara, I agree 100%. I would have loved a couple more pages to be like, you know, why did you do this? Why did you do that? It would have, yeah, it would have been interesting to see a little bit more.
I would have loved more, but I also kind of love being left open-ended to kind of try to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah. He didn't explicitly say if it was an alien or if it was like this ancient demon thing or if it was like a, you know, vampire, like something more natural. He didn't want, I think he didn't want to classify it. And sometimes when you get into those, like, these are the thoughts of the beast, you know, then that sort of explains it in a more specific way.
Yeah.
I like that he kept it vague.
Yeah, it was very like, there's a lot of room for your imagination to stretch out in this story, like way more so than usual. I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do agree. I agree with that. I do like, you know, trying to piece it together, trying to come up with your own sort of, you know, you kind of filling in the details. I just, there's part of me that's like, I know damn well that King has all the answers.
He does.
Just holding out on us.
I was fascinated by Jack Hoskins and his like vitriol for Ralph based, it seemed like, mainly on this whole no opinion on the review and how pissed off he was. I mean, he was like willing to murder this guy. Like, you know, hey, I'm kind of possessed, but
yeah,
I'm all about murdering Ralph, and so that's cool. It sucks about the other people, but I gotta take care of my Phaco cancer. But I would do it for Ralph. That's fine. I'm that. And I was just like, we don't really get much between, you know, why he hates him so much, but except for this no opinion.
They definitely, he kind of cultivates that, like that little seed of maybe hatred turns into real hatred.
Yes.
But kind of a believable, like, you know, he was threatened and then he felt like it was his only way out, and like Breaking Bad style, he kind of didn't care about the consequences. I like how hard Mike was laughing at Phaco cancer, though.
That's the worst kind of cancer.
I mean,
or the best.
Really gave him cancer? Bro, I didn't think he really gave him cancer.
Oh, I didn't think the other had that much sway in the real world to actually give. I think he just planted the seed in his brain.
That
But who knows? I mean,
Well, he says that he's poisonous like poison ivy.
Yeah.
And he touched him, but Hoskins was just like super susceptible to the poison ivy touch. And so when he got that burn, he was just like, oh, yeah, that's cancer.
right. Hey, guys, my wife is going to the Hollywood Bowl, so I have to run. But wow, this was a great book, and so far I have loved everything that everybody heard. I've heard everybody say, so I really am going to look forward to trying to watch the rest of it. So see, I mean, Eric, it is like recording. It's not like talking Trek Wrath of Khan, where
oh my god,
we're going to find out.
I didn't get to start the recording on that one. Let's just be clear. That was my father-in-law.
Okay.
Somehow, recording of a podcast that I was on, and then when he got done, it was at like 8 times speed or 10 times speed or something.
Oh,
so
geez.
they had to completely re-record it on a different day. Come on.
Bummer.
Anyway.
All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of the discussion. I'm
Thanks,
looking
Mike.
forward to seeing the end and hearing what's coming next.
All
All right.
Bye, guys.
See you,
Bye,
Mike.
Mike.
See, Mike. I wonder if I can like make a bookmark or something so I remember. Oh well.
One of the
Um,
podcasters, they like literally keeps a log of like timestamps, largely for when they swear, so they can go back and leave it out on their YouTube version.
Dude, I wonder if I can do that. Here, I'll just put a chat indicator. Like start here. 6:54.
There you go.
Awesome.
Jack Hoskins and Henry Bowers. Do you guys see the similarities there? I mean, I feel like a few of his other books too.
Yeah, he definitely like in Under the Dome, like somebody that has a little bit more power and just gets corrupted in just the right way. Yeah.
Like chasing the heroes in this fever as they get close to the supernatural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked. I was kind of alluding to. Like, I think it was more believable in this because he's an alcoholic to start with, and he just didn't like the guy. I mean, and then it sort of grew as his desperation grew. Henry Bowers. I mean, you go from douchebag kid to adult homicidal maniac, and that sort of makes sense. But you don't get to see exactly all the incremental shift. And this, it was fast, but Jack, you kind of didn't like him from the get-go. So
Yeah.
you kind of expected that he was going to turn a problem, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
But how good was that scene at the barn?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
That just flew by, and I was so upset. I was like, no, slow down. I want to enjoy this book.
So scary, so good. And I thought the straws for eyes was really captivating. Like, I could not stop thinking about that. And of course, he kept bringing it up. But yeah, I mean, did you guys find it scary?
Yeah, unsettling, very much so.
Yes. That's a great word for it, Tara.
yeah, unsettling. And I think that the thing and a lot about King's books that I think the what ifs of his books, like what if there's another outsider out there? I mean, there certainly could be.
Oh, yeah.
Who just like walks into your town and just nicks, your neighbor or your loved one, and you're just like, fuck. Like,
And that's it.
and, and then you're just living your life, and then all of a sudden it's just screwed.
I think with Jack, I love how King portrays these people who are sort of close up to the edge, and how easy it is to push somebody who's far enough along but generally still functional in society, but just push them right off the cliff with just such. I mean, he didn't really do that much. I mean, he touched him, maybe gave him, a bit of a burn on the neck, and then just some implant, some sort of suggestions and mental manipulation. But it took somebody who was functionally, was a police detective in this town. He had to be doing something, reasonable. But just shove him right over the edge. And I like how King does that. He takes these people who have this sort of underlying problems, and then just kind of, let's remove the shackles. Let's see where they go.
Yeah, it's like the supernatural translation of like a functional addict. Like right. When my mother was doing counseling, when she worked in that line of work, we would hear stories in group meetings and stuff about like. And I just went over, and so like you said, otherwise functional got shoved right over the edge by just that one thing. And it's a really interesting kind of translation. That's a really good pull.
I was reading some reviews for the books, and I didn't put it in the questions because I was reading them after I posted the question. But several reviews were really happy with the female characters in this book, and I had to agree. Like Janine, Janine, and obviously Holly we talked about, but just kind of like Janine keeps like pushing, like, no, this is what I saw, this is what I believe, and I'm not gonna kind of just let you brush me aside. I'm not gonna, let you do this, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and how that was kind of like a refreshing thing. And some of them were even saying like, even for King, that's refreshing, and I was like, yeah, maybe a little bit, but still, yeah, like to have. Female characters, and obviously Marcy. I didn't think she was as developed, but it made sense that she was a little bit cast in the grieving wife. I mean, she had a lot of shit going on that she needed to get through, and I don't think that I would have been as generous as her with like Ralph and everything at all. So.
Yeah, this was definitely kind of like a high watermark in my reading of King versus like just how women exist in his worlds. Like there wasn't just like random gratuitous like pound cakey descriptions of women and girls. Like everyone just was kind of, allowed to be fully human. There were no Julie Lowrys. Like it was really nice.
Yeah. Women were heard and respected, and and like even Holly, like not immediately, like they wanted to completely brush her off, and but eventually they were like basically like, yeah, you obviously know your shit and we're gonna listen to you. It took a while, but yeah. And I thought that was just really interesting because there have definitely been some. I had to think, but I don't think that there was even any sex in this book.
Only the sexual nature of the killings of the children, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it was like very short, intense bursts of horrifying, but then like you could step away from it. It was weird, but like not as bad as usual. And
with a purpose. It had like it had weight to it. But he was so horrible to the kids and everyone's reactions to it.
Yeah. And I guess just because we were just coming off of the Dead Zone and like all of the horribleness and Castle Rock killer part in there, I was just like, oh my god, really?
Yeah.
Start the book with it.
Please, man. I didn't want to read this kind of stuff right again, but well.
And even for such horrific killings, like we didn't have to wallow in the details.
Yeah, he every time it brought up, it had so much weight to it. It really was like, oh, this is so horrible.
Yeah.
Like I could see why Ralph would want to just nail Terry's ass to the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we liked it.
Yeah.
So, what did you all think of the outsider and the ultimate demise of at least this outsider? It was not something I expected, and it makes me wonder if the creature's built of sort of bugs. Why does hitting it in the head, quote unquote head, have that kind of impact? But so be it.
I kind of have a theory that I've been thinking about, just a little fan theory. A lot of similarities between this book and It, right?
Sure.
What if the outsider was one of the little It babies that got away?
Oh.
Because he didn't really seem to know all that much about himself if there were others of him. And it feeds on the sadness and everything. And then that slap the sock with the ball bearings would have been like a faith weapon that Holly used, because it was something that Bill had imparted on her.
Ah, that's really interesting.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It did kind of function like it too.
Yeah.
Where it's
And
like
it's
sort
just
of
not as
becomes-
strong as It.
Right.
Because It was ancient and strong, so it could just change.
Mm-hmm. Dang.
Wow. You might have thought a few steps ahead of him here.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Jeez, Ben, why didn't you make sure all of the goddamn eggs were squished?
Oh. That's, in my head, that's what the outsider was, and that's, I don't know, it makes sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, they were children. They sadness and or certainly a lot of fear and
Ooh. Also, the eyes like straws, they said. It was because there was light in the back of the eyes that shone out. That's why it looked like straws. He says in the final confrontation.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of like the deadlights.
Oh, wow.
Ah,
I'm thinking of the miniseries when I try to visualize that, where it's like the spider with the car headlights. But yeah, you're onto something.
I like it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. It was a nice, complete kind of, and even though it's a piece of a larger universe, it's very much like a complete, satisfying, top to bottom story, which was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they set up the whole confrontation very well.
Mhm.
I think at first I was trying to look for like those little convenient leaps that I was sort of expecting. And so, for example, the convenient leap of somebody drives by the Marysville Hole and like has a foreboding feeling about it, you know, and then in the next chapter or the next section even you find out, that's where two little boys died, and obviously that's where he's going to be, you know. So that was something that when I got to it, I recognized that he's probably going to come back to this in like 30 seconds. But I was happy with it. Like it felt like the right amount of timing in the story. And maybe he's just continuing to improve with age or something, but just it felt like he was able to kind of pull the wool over our eyes a little bit. And like, you know, you kind of know what's about to happen, but really you want to just restrain yourself. It'll still be good.
Mhm.
And like the fact that it was supernatural and they had to go and kill this thing in a cave, and it did feel like it. Like I feel like I almost expected myself to be more disappointed in that ending, but it was so good and so visceral and still scary, and there was still this element of you might be trapping yourselves down there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then like how crazy was it when Howie got shot? Like
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought for sure Jack Hoskins was going to shoot Alec. I didn't see Howie coming.
Nope.
Yeah.
I was like, Alec's going to be the one he shoots. Or if Stephen King really wants to get us, it's going to be Yoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But didn't see Howie going down like that.
Howie.
Very shy.
What I really loved about the ending was that the scene well after the confrontation when Ralph is, I think he's in the bathroom and like shaving or something, and like he starts seeing the bug, and then all of a sudden it's a dream. And I like that because for a second there I was like, oh shit, like is this really going to perpetuate? Like did he really accidentally touch a bug? And I was like, there's no way. And then he kind of reassures himself that no, there's no way, it really was a dream. But I liked that it left everything sort of a little unsettled in the sense of this is going to have repercussions for these people forever. It's the story was wrapped up in a neat bow. They achieved their objective in getting rid of the outsider and sort of exacting their revenge, but at the same time, the story continues because these people are going to be impacted by this, which I thought was a really nice touch, and I really liked the way he did that and showed that.
It gives us the sense of the real. It's like these are real people that actually had to deal with the aftermath.
So, I was wondering, I don't know how many people have actually read the other books. Sounds like Mike hadn't.
I have not.
I have read Mr. Mercedes, but that was, I think, back when it was released or shortly thereafter. So we're talking years and years ago. And I remember the vaguest details about it. I didn't remember the names. I didn't recognize Holly from it until she said, and then once she started saying things, then more came back to me. But that's the only one I read. I haven't read the other two in that trilogy.
I'm just wondering if we want to like trilogy it up, or
I'm super down for that.
Same.
Sure.
Especially with the show starting.
Yeah. When's the show? I just heard it was like bought. I don't know. Oh, Mr.
It aired August 9th.
Yeah,
I think that's season 2.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think 2000. Yeah, August 9th, 2017. I just looked it up.
Yeah. So, of those very brief descriptions of Bill Hodges, Brendan Gleeson? That's so perfect.
Oh, Brendan Gleeson. I'm looking at some of the pictures.
It's amazing. Yeah, I would be 100% down. I definitely already bought Mr. Mercedes because I was so excited to maybe read it. So, yeah.
Well,
I'd be down.
Cool. We can throw it out to, I mean, we're really the only active members, although I think Mike invited a new guy. So we can throw it out as maybe like a shortcut vote. We'll just say it's already been nominated and like vote.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thing.
Sounds good to me.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then that'll get us 2 books.
3. It's a trilogy.
Yeah, this was like the 4th book, Jessica.
Is this the 4th book?
Yeah.
Sorta.
Yeah, this was just technically, I guess, standalone. It's Mr. Mercedes, something else, and then End of Watch.
Finders Keepers is the middle one.
Yeah.
My mom just lied to me. What can you trust? Yeah, but I think that'd be cool, and we could have like maybe like mini meetings in between or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I'm cool with it.
Would be something.
Sounds good to me.
If it's anything like this book was, I think we'll be finished with these 3 pretty fast.
Yeah, I read this in like a week, easy.
Yeah.
I remember very much enjoying Mr. Mercedes.
Cool.
It was a good read. I mean, like I said, it's been a very long time, but I remember having good feelings about it.
Well, it doesn't seem, John, like your son is a big Stephen King fan. Very, very unhappy.
Oh, buddy.
Is JR more of a fan, or?
JR's a fan of anything that has letters in it, so Stephen King or anything else.
Nice.
Stay up late nights and read your books or get the audiobooks. Oh, I have to find out if there's audiobooks.
Probably are. This book was the first time I ever did the Kindle sync with the audio and the.
Oh yeah.
I bought the ebook and then I used one of my Audible credits on the audiobook because I do a lot of driving for work, and it was really nice to be able to like just kind of wherever I was at pick up from where I'd left off. It did a really good job with that system.
I did that for Dead Zone.
Narrator, or was there a celebrity reader?
No, it was a normal reader. It wasn't a celebrity. I don't know if it's somebody who does a lot of King books and stuff because I think this may be the first King audiobook I've ever listened to. But it was. I mean, he was a good narrator. I didn't have any issues with him.
Eric got us all into doing the audiobook for The Dead Zone, and it was James Franco.
Wow.
We were
Nice.
all doing it, and it was like James Franco. So
Turns out, famous actor is a good voice actor.
Yeah, I thought it was only a little like with Wyzak. I thought it was a little. But other than that, I thought.
Because he did the Wiseau.
Yeah, he did the Wiseau, the Tommy Wiseau voice, which made it better, if I'm being honest.
Nice. Yeah, sometimes like that book reader voice is a little bit much. The last audiobook I did was Lincoln in the Bardo, the George Saunders book, and that actually has a full cast of more than 100 voice actors in it.
Wow.
And many of them are famous. And that was really fun. But then like the times when it was the narrator, it was just very much that I am an audiobook reader, and it was very distracting.
Yeah. We have a couple friends who are voice actors and they just do audio, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. So it's apparently a thing that I didn't know about. So all right. Well, if anyone finds out, let us know if there's anybody cool doing the audiobook for Mr. Mercedes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep us informed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I don't have anything else. I'll post out for a vote on us doing the trilogy.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for organizing.
Thanks, Eric, for taping.
Well, we'll see if it works. You guys might be at 8 times speed and get to laugh at it with your kids, but it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
All right,
everybody.
See you guys later.
Good
Bye,
night.
y'all.